Hello, this is John with Theology Ed. In this video, we're going to look at August, and I'm going to break it down like this. August as a month, as a whole, just a few comments about that. We're going to look into that. Second, August 22nd, I have a few more things to say about that August 22nd date in relation to the Black militia that just marched on July 4th in Georgia, and then July 25th made an appearance in Louisville and then made a threat. We're going to talk about August 22nd, which is important there. And in the last video, I talked about it already, my video about that militia. And then I'm going to focus most of the video on August 3rd, which is approaching just in a few days here, a couple days here, and how that is in predictive programming, possibly in a variety of places. I'm not going to set any dates here. This is more like exploration, trying to figure out how do we do how do we interpret predictive programming. We are definitely already in a dangerous period of time, right? We're in the second half of 2020. The buck moon has come and gone. We've seen that between July 21st and June 21st, the annular eclipse, and July 5th, the buck moon, we did see a lot of things begin to develop in Asia, in the US, in the Middle East, right? We're seeing things sort of take shape. And what I think we're probably going to be looking at is the development over the second half of 2020 of some problems and into 2021. And probably in another video, I'll be talking about 2021 and definitely December of 2020. But I'm not going to do that right now because, well, August 3rd is coming soon. I just want to make sure we have a video out about this period of time, the whole month of August, and then also what's going on with August 3rd. Very quickly about August as a whole. August as a whole, in this calendar, for example, the classroom calendar, is perhaps the most hidden month. We don't really get a clear view of anything in August. We don't get a clear view of the head. May is hidden too, but we have a clear view of the head. We can see this damage to the head or whatever. August, we don't get that. August is just really hard to see. We have something here, but we don't even know what that is. I don't know what it is. Is it a hand? I don't know. It's not his elbow. His elbow can't come out his neck. I'm not sure what we have there. We don't really get a clear picture of his body. August is a mystery. We do have the barbed wire going up in July, which seems to have corresponded to a growth and concern about the virus, the pandemic, and increases in lockdowns. But it goes down pretty rapidly in August, like something changed the news cycle, right? Like they're not going to talk about it as much for some reason. So maybe that happens. I'm not sure. We'll learn about the barbed wire as well. We'll see if it corresponds to a sort of midway through August, maybe a pretty rapid descent in concern, coverage, or people are going to think about it less. I'm not sure. But we have these rabbit ears. It looks like these bunny ears up here in August. So maybe a lot of the stuff that's talking about the rabbit is related to August. Maybe we're going to see some big events in August. I'm not sure. But we definitely do have some indication that's solid and about August 22nd. And I'll get to that in just a second. Now, August also, I think, is noteworthy for a reason that I just learned about today. And I don't want to make too much about this, but I woke up today and I looked at my phone and I saw this. And I live in Brazil, so this is in Portuguese, and I can't find a lot of information about it in English. But in Brazil, it's sort of customary to speak about August as the month that never ends and that lasts 88 years. Now, this is, I'll translate it for you. It says, people, friends, whatever. July is already ending, and we are entering August. And you know what that means? We are going to pass through a temporal gap. We are going to be, for more or less 88 years, arrested or imprisoned in August because this is the month that never ends. Good luck to us all, good luck to us all. And so I thought, what in the world is this guy talking about? So I started to ask some people. I said, what is this 88-year August? And they're like, oh, yeah, we don't talk like that. And I said, but why? And then they don't even know, most of them. But one person said she thinks that it may be because July is a 31-day month and August normally would be the next month after a 31-day month would be a 30-day month, but August is a 31-day month as well, and so it's the month that's longer than it should be. Maybe that explains part of it, but that doesn't give us the 88. I'm not sure. It's sort of part of the lore here, but it made me think, oh, so 88's connection to August, and there's been a lot of predictive programming about 88. For example, We Summon the Darkness, that's set in Indiana in 1988, even though it was released in 2019, 2020. Donnie Darko, a 2001 film. All that important predictive programming set in 1988. Lots of 88 in that one as well. How much time until the end of the world? You add the numbers up, 88. And so this 88, 88, 88 comes up a lot, and it makes me think, here, this is, a pretty significant country. It's not the United States, but it's a big country. And culturally, 88 years is August. That's what they're talking about. August lasts 88 years. 88 and August go hand in hand. Okay, so maybe there is something in the predictive programming that does have August in mind. Now, let's go to August 22nd. So, of course, we had on July 5th, the Buck Moon Day. That night was the Buck Moon, July 4th into July 5th. We had the NFAC militia come out, and this was when they made the news in a big way for the first time, at least that I noticed. I'm not sure, but it was a big deal. And after that, they disappeared. They were recruiting, gaining members, all of that. On July 25th, they showed up in Louisville demanding, with a demand. They want an investigation completed into the Breonna Taylor case within 28 days from July 25th. And the Breonna Taylor case deserves an investigation. That's right. I don't think it's likely that they're going to have their demands met because, well, all news reports suggest that 28 days is faster than normal. And so this is a request for special treatment. They want a fast, expedited investigation at gunpoint, basically. And governments don't do that, because if they do, then everybody's going to show up with guns and say, I want my family to be, in this case, that's important to my family to be investigated or whatever. And they resist that sort of demand. And so it's very unlikely that this is going to happen unless the government comes out and says, this is coincidental. We had already started it. And, they'll give some sort of story if they do it before then. But it's unlikely that's going to happen, I think. So in 28 days from July 25th, August 22nd, the leader of the NFAC said, we're going to burn this mother effer down. Okay, they want the mother effing truth, which is more important than just the truth. They want the mother effing truth, or they're going to burn the mother effer down. And so this is important. And I'm not sure what the mother effer is. It could be Louisville as a whole. I don't know. It could be the court. I don't know what the mother effer is, but whatever it is, they're going to burn it down on August 22nd, they say, if they don't get their demand met. Now, that threat is obviously a threat of violence for August 22nd. Now, I received an email from a gentleman in Kenya, Moses Ayako, I believe is how you say his name, who pointed out that August 22nd on the lunar calendar in China is your July 4th. That's the lunar date, July 4th. August 22nd is July 4th. So they showed up in Georgia on July 4th. Then they come back on July 25th and say, we're coming back to burn the place down in 28 days on August 22nd if we don't have our demands met. And that happens to be another July 4th, just on the lunar calendar. And we've seen a lot of July 4th predictive programming in a lot of different places, including, he pointed out, in this Purge. In the Purge, of course, you have the Purge. It's an election year. Keep America great. Obviously we're seeing, sort of this Make America Great Again idea here. And July 4th weekend, the Purge. That's when the government lets people go out and murder and do all sorts of horrible things without punishment. Anything goes for a day. That's the Purge. And so perhaps it has something to do with that August 22nd date, right? It is an interesting possibility. I don't know even what this means. Clash, rabbit. I don't know. I looked at other dates in the lunar calendar and all that. They are not rabbit dates or whatever. This date is. So It's a interesting possibility, especially with the August rabbit. Possible look with these leaves looking like rabbit ears. Now, so I mentioned that August 22nd, that's a little bit of additional interesting information to add to what we've already looked at in the previous video. So now let's move to August 3rd. August 3rd is a date of interest. Right now, there is in the Atlantic a hurricane. Okay, this hurricane is called Hurricane Isaias, or Isaias. Okay, but Hurricane Isaias, like the prophet Isaiah. Okay, and Hurricane Isaias is headed towards Florida and will be going up, according to the forecast, up the East Coast and getting to Manhattan between Monday and Tuesday at earliest, and most likely on Tuesday. So August 3rd to August 4th, it will be, that's tropical storm force winds. The actual storm won't just start out of nowhere at tropical storm force winds. So the rain and the winds, and it'll be affected by it before August 3rd, August 4th. So basically, by the time August 3rd is here, you're going to have over Manhattan or near Manhattan, affecting Manhattan, a tropical storm or hurricane. Of course, in IPG2, we know that when Sirius is lighting up the statue, which in ancient Egypt was related to Sirius's reemergence after the dog days of summer. So in August, okay, there will be looks like a hurricane over New York City. And actually, if you notice, this hurricane in IPG2 closes up over it, which is like it's not strong anymore. The eye, it's lost its eye, it's deteriorating, the storm is dissipating, or it's going to disappear. And that happens sort of over New York City. So we have this going on right now, possibly. Just something to keep an eye on. Now, we also have, related to these false flag attacks in 2020, in the Be Ready ad, we had the 3/11. So there's your March 11th pandemic declaration, 6/21, there's your annular eclipse, 7/4, there's your July 4th, right? And what happens? Runaway sector New York water. So we have this threat of some water event in New York City. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Category 5 hurricane that's going to flood everything catastrophically. As we saw in Donnie Darko, part 2 of the Donnie Darko series, I discuss hurricanes in relation to events that were planned by them. And so in Donnie Darko, we had what? The eye representing sort of the vortex, or these places that you can travel through time in. And notice it's all watery here. And we have the floods. And the buck rabbit says, Frank the buck rabbit, says to Donnie, who represents the president, go take an axe, go to the school, break the water main, and flood it on October 6th. And he goes, and that same night, he takes the axe after he starts to flood, he takes the axe and puts it in the head of the mongrel. Okay, and so we have an attack on the mongrels while there's flooding happening at the buck's command. Okay, on October 6th. Now we went and I showed that we had a Hurricane Iris. Now, of course, the iris is this part of the eye. Okay. Hurricane Iris between October 4th and October 9th, so including October 6th, was spinning in the Caribbean headed towards Belize. And it was that same time on October 6th that President Bush went to the Congress and said, we're going to attack Afghanistan. And then that day, October 6th, 7th, and 7th, they actually struck. They put the axe in the head of the mongrels while a hurricane, conveniently named Iris, was in the Caribbean at the same time. Okay, so this appears to have all been planned. Now, Hurricane Iris that name has been retired. It's been removed from, no other hurricane will be named Iris again, because that one killed 36 people, caused a lot of damage, and was important enough to end that name. It's been retired. So that happened. We also saw in Donnie Darko programming pointing out that the 9/11 attacks on October 2nd in the film, but on the here in the film itself, it was 9 minutes 11 seconds in when they showed that. It was on that date that the jet engine fell on the building, destroying the U.S. flag and the ceiling of Donnie's room, and eventually killing Donnie. Okay, after the watch my series on that. But anyways, the point is the attack happened. The plane attack that destroyed a building happened on the 9/11. But notice also what happens in real life when Manhattan attacks were happening. Spinning off the coast of New York City of Manhattan is Hurricane Aaron. Okay, so again we have the hurricanes out here related to the big events, and so we have this hurricane in IPG2, and we have this hurricane spinning right now, Hurricane Isaias, the 9th storm of the year, headed up the coast to be at Manhattan roughly on August 3rd, affecting it August 3rd. And August 3rd, as I'll show in a second, August 2nd, 3rd, these dates are in predictive programming. Now, Isaiah also is really interesting. This Isaias name is really interesting. I don't do Gematria. I'm not big into that stuff, but I know people are, so I'll mention it. So here I threw in the Gematria calculator. And if you look, the Jewish one, you got 990 and 19190, a lot of nines and ones. But look at the simple Gematria. I is 9, S is 19. A 1, I 9, 1, 1 9. So it's 9 1 9 1 9 1 1 9. I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. People like that, I'm sure. And then you get the 58, which 5 and 8, 13, whatever. You can look into that. People who like to really dig into that, that's there for the taking. But it goes up the coast, and it's right on time. And it is the 9th storm of the year. And it's named after the prophet Isaiah, who is a prophet who talks a lot about end time stuff and things related to the period before the millennium and into that. Okay, so we have a lot of little interesting connections. This is Hurricane Isaiah going up the coast right on time. Now, why else is this August 2nd, 3rd date interesting? In Donnie Darko, which, of course, already we know is the first 9/11. What does the Buck say? He calls him out of his room. He's going to destroy the U.S., all that. You see the flag above it and the swan song for the U.S. Okay, he comes out and the Buck says to him, 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds, which I've already mentioned adds up to 88, which could be a pretty strong indicator that it's August that they have in mind. Julian T. apparently has a video. I've not been able to find it. I've heard about it before that analyzes the audio in IPG2 in reverse. And when George Bush is talking, apparently he says August as well. But here we have a hint at August. But 28 days after the buck moon is when? 28 days after the buck moon is August 2nd, the Sunday. But notice it's 28 days and 6 hours and so on. So if you were to start the counting at the end of the buck moon, at the end of July 5th, you'd end up just going into August 3rd. So we had August 2nd, August 3rd are possible dates if you take 28 days and 6 hours and you find some start point on July 5th. And that's when the world ends. So since we're analyzing Donnie Darko already, and we've been talking about this really important 28 days, 6 hours, this countdown to the end of the world, and it's the Buck who tells us this. So the Buck comes, warns you 28 days later, the end of the world. Well, if that's the case, then that would be from, if we're supposed to start counting on the actual July 5th Buck Moon date, and their actual days we're supposed to be counting, well, that would be August 2nd, August 3rd. Now, let's look at Operation Blackjack. Now, Operation Blackjack, like Donnie Darko, is a pretty well confirmed piece of predictive programming. This isn't the sort of thing where we think maybe it's telling us something. No, this is something where they clearly were up to no good with the video, or not the video, with the slideshow. This comes out of the Telegraph, and it is a slideshow that was bizarre. They actually, it almost looks like they were using it for communications, like intelligence communications. And in fact, in World War II, the Telegraph, after World War II, was investigated for espionage because in the entertainment section, the names of the beaches to be stormed at Normandy were in crossword puzzles. Okay, and so this paper has sort of a sketchy past. And here in this slideshow, on this slide, for example, in part 1 of the series, slide 30, they had report and a blank line here, no dots or dashes. Then, after like a year or two, I can't remember exactly how long it was, I found that they updated it. And they changed it from report to standby, left open space here, like they're going to add something else underneath it eventually. And they added Morse code to the white line here. And the Morse code says, we're in the pipe. That's a way of saying we're ready. Everything is in place. Now we're in standby. So that's an interesting thing. I mean, that's not typical of your entertainment section slideshows to add this sort of thing after a year, 2, 3 years after this has been published online when nobody's really looking at old stuff. Now, they also had in that slideshow this. This is a card that says all purchases, businesses, financial transactions across the UNA, North American Union, must now be supported by presentation of your UNA biometric identification card. UNA oversight has the authority to close businesses that fail to demand sight of the card from all clients and customers. Citizens who fail to carry their card and present it upon demand could face unlimited jail terms. And then you take that number and put it in a hex to string converter. Just pick any hex to string converter online, type the number in yourself, like I did tonight, and you hit convert. This is not simply entertainment. That's what's encoded there. Okay, this is not simply entertainment. Then, almost all the slides in Operation Blackjack say the events depicted are imaginary and fictional, right? Or things like that. The events portrayed in this slideshow are entirely fictitious, or the events portrayed are entirely fictitious, or the fictitious line again. So you get this whole, it's not real, until you get this one. Preparing for the lockdown. And what is that one? All citizens are obliged with immediate effect to make contact with their approved health provider to arrange to receive a one-time vaccination against a range of biological and chemical agents. There is no charge for this implant. Failure to comply could result in an unlimited prison term. Okay, this is in the slideshow happening after the Constitution's been suspended due to a big attack. All right, which I think is probably related to the pandemic virus. Okay, the coronavirus. So what you have then is this is not simply entertainment. They're going to force vaccines on you during a lockdown. That's what's really going on in Operation Blackjack, a slideshow that also was updating from report to standby saying we're ready years ago. Okay, so this is a slideshow that is clearly including at least predictive programming, probably even more than that, so other types of communications between people that, not us. Okay, now, what is Operation Blackjack about? Well, on June 20th, there's a report of a potential attack from Islamists, extremists, homegrown extremists, and Christian doomsday cultists. Okay, and June 21st comes. It's a key event or key date because of Blackjack. They raise the threat level. When June 21st comes, it gets more dangerous. The threat goes up. And then it's after the June 21st threat increase. On June 22nd, there's an attack. But look at the time, 8:03. But it's not just some random time they throw up there. Look, there's no attack yet. It detonates. The bomb, the nuclear blast begins at 8:03:20. Now, if that's a year, that's August the 3rd, 2020. And so you have a potential piece of programming that says this is going to happen on August 3rd, 2020. Of course, it could also mean March 8th, 2020, and the attack isn't nuclear at all, which is, I think, whatever happens, I don't know that the attacks can be a nuclear attack here. It ends up being a global attack. They have lots of different cities being attacked, and they would be pointing to the pandemic, which was declared on March 11th. So March 8th would have been a time when that outbreak they're making a big fuss about it. Okay. And then they finally say it's a pandemic, the whole world. And then then Trump declares the national emergency, suspends the Constitution, hands over government to FEMA in some way or whatever. But you have the possibility that it's an August 3rd, 2020 date here. And then when it goes to the other cities that are attacked roughly simultaneously, it says simultaneously, you have August 3rd, 27. Now, that's not a year. I think they're just going to be embedding 9/11s in here. That's a 9. August 3rd, 27, 9, Washington, D.C. Toronto, 27, 9. Mexico City, 47, add them to 11. Portland, 29, that's an 11. Los Angeles, 27, that's a 9. And so they all attacks initiate on 9/11, 9/11, or the very first attack, which is depicted in the first slideshow, 8/03/20. So, and what's going to happen? Well, they say stay at home and await further instructions. There's your lockdown, right? The announcement is stay at home. So what you have in Operation Blackjack, again, is another potential bit of predictive programming pointing to August 3rd, which, like Donnie Darko, pointing to August 2nd, 3rd with this math, adding up to 88 for August, coupled with our 9/11 Hurricane Isaias that is actually going to Manhattan, it looks like, according to forecasts so far, coupled with IPG2 having, during this Sirius period of when Sirius is relevant, so August, a hurricane that sort of dissipates over New York City. Okay, when you put all that together, knowing that hurricanes and Donnie Darko were already associated with the Donnie Darko related predictions, well, it does look like it's possible that this weekend could be something. It's not. I'm not sure of it. I'm not worried about specific dates, honestly. I'm only mentioning this specific date because we've talked about Donnie Darko, and you just add 28 and you get there. We got this hurricane coming, and we have the Operation Blackjack, 8/3/20. So might as well mention it just to throw it out there. If it comes and goes, which is what I sort of expect to happen, and we don't have anything in particular that's really big on these dates, I don't think that means much. It could just be a way for us to learn a little more about Donnie Darko, because it would let us see that the beginning of that 28-day countdown is not on July 5th. The beginning may be the end of the dog days. The beginning maybe does have. It may not be a literal 28 days that we're supposed to be counting at all. It may just be that time that adds up to 88. Give us some other hints, right, related to the numerology of 88 or eights and all of that. But this is how we gain insights, right? We look, we throw out hypotheses, we test them, and we see what happens. And so I'm throwing this out there. You guys can make of it what you will. So we've got August, interesting month to watch, bunny ears. We got the NFAC threatening violence on the lunar July 4th now, after coming out on the Gregorian July 4th. And then we've got all of this going on related to the hurricane and August 3rd predictive programming. So there you have it. Like, subscribe, share, and take care.